I'm gonna be on the prowl.
I never did make enough money to pay it. I'm with you, Burl, I'm with you.
Yep.
What I said earlier, scratch that, that was all just.
Yeah, I know.
You're not even working. We're not even making it.
Okay, we're going to call tonight's meeting to order. We have to do the reorganization and all of that, so if you want to stand, we'll get Sam to do the prayer for us and the pledge.
Dear Heavenly Father, once again, we come before you tonight to give you honor, glory, and praise. Say thank you for your love and mercy and grace we do. Lord, we ask you to watch over and guide us, watch over the council, that we have a lot of decisions to make, Lord, and just help us come together as one community, one county. Just please forgive us of our sins and shortcomings. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we're going to start with the new recording system that we got. Each of you have a microphone in front of you. Only 4 at a time will work. You have to push the button on the base in front of you, and if it's red, that means you're live. You can share if you want to. You can share with each other, and because only 4 will work at one time, and we also have the one that's down here at the table, so anybody that is speaking has to come up, and that one will stay on at all times. There is a master control sitting here in front of Anton that if we want to shut it off or we need to move things, it can be controlled. I think Alex just gave him a quick lesson. In the meantime, everybody, when you're talking, just make sure you're live on yours, as Sheila was not. Is that one on? Because he was showing. You just shut us off, but we're good.
Red is off.
The red's on.
Red's on.
Okay, I'll try to keep an eye on everybody's and make sure we're recording when we're doing it. That being said, we'll open it up for nominations for the president, for council.
So Polly, do you want to continue as president?
I would be happy to if that's what the council wants.
I'm going to make a motion to nominate Polly Chesser for president.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations?
I make a motion, nomination be closed.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay. It's yours, Polly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I will give it 110%, I promise.
Thank you, you are. And with that, I'd like to make a motion that we, if he's willing to do it.
Turn on your microphone.
There you go.
So, yeah, there you go. You have to turn it on now because there's too many of them.
I would like to nominate, what's your middle name, Burl? I want to make it official. Burl Keith as vice president, if he's willing to continue.
Yeah. I second that. Turn on
This is going to be.
Turn off that one there. You have to turn off yours.
Earl, you're going to have to turn.
your microphone. Too many. I second it.
I don't think it was on, but that's okay.
This is going to be interesting.
Second by Steve.
And I move that we close the nomination.
So all those in favor of Earl? Motion carries. All right. Well,
Okay.
all right, we will go on to old business. The ARPA funds review are in front of you. Do we want to go through that or want to go through your funds here?
You have your funds that are in there. These are the ending ones on December the 31st. If you note, we do have $4,041,975 still in the general fund, which is good leap from what we've had the last couple of years. There are still a couple that are in the red. We're working on adjustments. The state has allowed us to still continue changing and making some corrections. So if you have any questions on that. And then your ARPA funds review that is in front of you. At the last commissioners meeting, the commissioners rescinded the actual original proposed. It looks like this. It's in your packets. They rescinded it because it has been met as far as repaying the negative funds, and they want to reappropriate this $973,406. And I asked them, Polly was there to make sure that they worked with the council and let's put it to good use. There's a lot of pending projects out there, whether it's the highway or the jail. So again, we have met the State Board of Accounts audit request or requirements in as far as paying it back. So this is still available in your ARPA fund. Your ARPA fund balance is $1,497,798. And there's the second or last tranche of $50,000 did come in. So that'll be added to the totals and moving forward. But starting the year off, I think we're looking good as far as the fund balances go. Just have to be careful throughout the year and making sure that we're not over additional appropriations or making cuts or adding things that we would not be able to maintain in 2025 and moving forward.
So basically, Commissioner Burton, the decision was along the lines of, we've paid those negative funds, so that problem has been taken care of. And with the balance in the general fund maybe being a little better than anticipated, that it was wise to perhaps free them back up to use for roads, bridges, sirens,
Absolutely.
those kind of things. Okay.
Absolutely. And Chris has brought up a request here, trying to stay on target here. We've got a radio issue that we've talked $200,000-$300,000. I think a chunk of that should go towards that to take the pressure from lit, wherever. And so that was a discussion. We also ordered an ambulance without a power cot system. That's another $39,000. So those are some avenues that we're looking at. We haven't put any true numbers or proposals together, just thought process out there from different departments. I know a highway, we desperately need a new tractor and a mow trim. Greg's come up with a proposal for that. Freeman Road's something we've looked at. So there's a lot of different options out there. One thing I do want to, since we're talking about ARPA funds, and I don't see it on the agenda here, was the LAO payroll time management system. Commissioners didn't approve that to be paid out of ARPA. We talked to Polly about Riverboat, I think. To me, that's an administrative function and it shouldn't be used ARPA money. That goes back to the taxpayers, in my opinion. So, but yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking, Amazon.
They approved at their December 11th meeting for the LAO program.
And somehow in your meeting, it was approved with ARPA funds, but ARPA funds were never presented for that, so.
And I can't remember how that came about.
I don't know either,
Yeah.
Polly, it just kind of, whoever made the motion, I think. added that to
I
it.
think it was kind of written down wrong and we had presented it that way, but that was not the intention, so.
I think we were on a roll getting some things done. So should we go ahead and take some kind of action then to reaffirm using Riverboat or correct that part for the record then?
Yeah.
If we could, that way we can go ahead and get that process going, because we have some payroll issues, and the faster we can fix that problem, I think the better.
What was the exact amount of that service? Anybody?
I want to say it was 53, 54,000.
I think it was 63,000.
Yeah.
It was an even number.
So.
It was 64,000.
64.
is what-
Okay.
And what's the current Riverboat? I can look here.
Let's see.
It's 1191, 197,887.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve up to the amount 63, will that do it?
64.
64.
64, up to the amount of $64,000 out of Fund 1161? Or that's public health.
11.
Sorry,
1191.
1191.
1191.
Typo.
For the purchase of the proposed timekeeping system.
I'll go ahead and second that.
Motion made by Andy, seconded by Anton. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried.
They have started emailing and working with Maddie already, gotten a lot of information to them. Right now, they're reviewing all of the policies to make sure that there isn't anything, or if there's something that needs to be changed or adjusted, those will be coming up in your next couple of meetings or so, as well as the commissioners, so.
We've been talking about this,
Here, let me turn for a while.
that's okay.
Go ahead.
I'm sure it can hear me, but no one wants to. But we've been talking about that system for a long time, so good to see it come to fruition.
So was there anything else on ARP that we need to address tonight?
No, that was the only thing that we needed to reverse on it. Everything else, there's no other proposals on the table at this time.
And do we need to do something for the record, Sheila, to reverse the previous decision on using it for the negative funds? Or to kind of match what the commissioners had done? Or is,
Want to add an amendment to the motion to clarify that it is Riverboat, not ARPA?
no,
I think
as far as the negative fund balances?
Yeah.
But I,
Because aren't we supposed to match in terms of the decision, you know, your plan versus the appropriation?
I don't think that that's gonna have any play in that.
Okay,
I mean, the funds were, again, we had to take them out of the general fund cash balance to zero both of them out. That was done at the last meeting when I presented the proposal to you. That had already been done, as well as when I presented it to the commissioners. So that step is done.
but on the ARP side, for their audit and record, do we need to identify the fact that we ended
The
up?
proposal is just rescinded, so according to the attorney, we don't have to do anything.
Okay, just want to make sure
Yeah,
we're
I
not,
clarified that with him before we move forward.
okay, good, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions about the ARPA funds, we'll go on to new business. Department transfers and 2023 review. Sheila, you want to?
Again, that is just, that's the big stack that is in there. We had at the last meeting asked for a broad motion to make changes and corrections as needed, just because we knew that there were some funds that were at the negative. So you have a good-sized stack here. This is actually for the entire year, and as you can tell, December, November, and December were huge. These were all the transfers, additional appropriations, claim adjustments, receipt adjustments, just for you to review. And again, we made a lot of adjustments. We worked individually with departments if we needed to do something to let them know we changed or added or had to increase or carry forward to pay. There were 8 days in the end of 2023 and 6 in 24. Payroll has been horrible for Maddie. But again, just we had told you that we would bring you a copy of everything that we had did. So that's all that is.
And I want to brag on the auditor and her department, because I know you guys have been burning the midnight oil, and you are on top of everything, and we appreciate it.
I wish, but thank you.
So, and you've reviewed and these are all good to go and correct. So with that, the financial appropriation adjustment document dated 1/4/2024, I'm going to move that we approve those en masse.
Motion made by Andy. Is there a second? Seconded by Verl. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, on to the coroner job description adoption.
Anton, did they get you anything?
So I do not have any actual job descriptions. Is that something that was supposed to be in the packet?
there was emails back and forth, and they had said that they had job descriptions, and I didn't know if they had sent them to you or not, so those will still be pending receipt from the coroner.
I think that for February, we should make sure. For February, we should make sure that's on the agenda so we can adopt those for the record.
When was that email?
I think it was right after you guys approved the 2018, 2019, and the very last meeting, the salary ordinances, they were concerned that it wasn't correct on their numbers and the amount under the regular wages and salary. They had just been back and forth of where it was at, and financially, everything is in the budget. It was just how it came through. And again, Anton had asked them for job descriptions, and they said that they had them, and I didn't know if they had gotten them to him or not. I did not get any.
So we just want to table that till our next meeting. Okay, on to the.
So, well, speaking of
Oh,
coroner, I don't know
okay.
if you want to discuss, a decision or some kind of direction as far as how we set up that department. If you remember, we had some kind of a discussion during hearings about creating that chief deputy position. But then the question, I guess, that was posed to us was, does that just cover the administrative portion of that job, and that the per-case assignment for deaths, it still applies for that individual? Or was that, some of those included in that? I don't know if any of you remember.
I remember.
I remember the
that.
conversation, but I don't remember that specifically.
So I thought we agreed at budget time that the deputy was more of an administrative role.
The chief deputy.
The chief deputy, yes. And I thought, didn't we set his salary based on no additional cases, or?
I recall it being $4,000
Right.
plus the cases as
Plus
they
the
come
cases,
along.
okay.
Yes, but it is not a full-time position, so it would not qualify
Right.
for perf.
Not the salary end of it.
I was thinking
Right.
that we had like set so many cases. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah, I'm
like
pulling
a-
that up right now.
There was a pool of $12,500 put in the part-time, and some of that was to be used for his added workload and as far as case runs goes, and then split between the others.
So what we currently have at the moment, we have the coroner's part in this, and she did have a certain amount of cases, I think about half maybe, that she normally took care of. But of the other part, we had 60 lead case assignments budgeted. Again, these are estimates. And we had 15 assistant assignments. And we figured about $12,750 to cover those costs. And so, as long as that accurately includes the case assignments that we thought the chief deputy was going to have, then we're fine. There's nothing else we need to do. But if it doesn't, then we're going to be short, because we wouldn't have put, the correct amount of cases in there, if that makes sense. But, 60 seems like that would include, because if I'm not mistaken, there was about 120 total cases somewhere in there, and if the coroner took half of those, that would be 60, or pretty close to it. So it seems to jive with the thought that the chief deputy was not only going to get the set amount for a salary for admin, but also the per case assignment cost for each case that he took. And if that's okay with the council, there's really nothing further we need to do. So,
I thought that's what we decided last time.
Yeah.
there you go.
So, is there anything else about the coroner that we need to discuss?
Yes, so who would have thought the coroner was the subject of the evening? The position of chief deputy coroner is eligible for longevity, and that's not something that we had budgeted for. So there's an additional $1,820 for the year that at some point, probably towards the end of the year, we'll need to settle up on or try to monitor if there's not any transfers or something we need to do for that.
Okay.
But we did verify through the payroll record that he had started his most recent period of service on January 1st of 19. So from that date to the current, that's so much time that he's eligible for, and then we did the math, and that's the difference, so.
So with that, is there anything else?
I don't think there's any action at this time. Again, keeping an eye on the balances and seeing if you can come up with that dollar amount later in the year, even if it's transferred from somewhere. If not, by the October meeting or so, we'll have to. She'll probably be back before then, as she always is, for additional autopsy monies too, so we'll kind of keep an eye on both of them.
Do you have anything else on the corner and, okay. All right, let's move on to the treasurer additional appropriation.
If you recall at your last meeting on December the 28th, you did the resolution to approve that document fund 4902 for the treasurer's office for her budget for this year.
And this is, you're really referring to clerk.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what
sorry, the
Okay.
clerk, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's what I was a little confused on.
Yes.
Okay.
So being, again, her budget is $48,200. The cash balance in the fund currently is $63,000 and something, so there's plenty if she would need additional or to use for the 2025 budgets. But you did approve the resolution to allow her to use these funds at your December 28th meeting. So you just need a motion to advertise this additional appropriation.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a motion, we advertise the amount of $48,200. Fund 4902, well, for cash/contracts line, and that's it.
Motion made by Andy. Is there a second? Second by Verl.
So just for clarification, there is a budget sheet included in there, and there's actually 4 line items. Contract services is one of those, which is only $20,000. Maintenance is at $16,000, printing at $11,000, and registration conference at $1,200. So that totals the $48,000.
Yeah, I'll amend that to say Fund 4902,
Okay.
if that's good with
Verl.
my
Yes.
second. Yeah.
Are there any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, on to the 911 salary increase request, additional appropriation.
This is another one that was at your December 28th meeting. You guys voted to increase the position to $60,000, which also would have included your perf and FICA and the job description change. In your packet, you do have a copy of the updated job description, which took out the education component of requiring an associate's degree. So you just need an approval for the additional appropriation to advertise to add to the total salary.
Has that been billed yet?
Not to my knowledge. We're waiting for.
Has that been billed yet?
No, it just, it's been advertised on Indeed again, hoping to draw in some more applicants with the change in the degree requirement, and we have not received any in the last few days, but again, it just hit Indeed again, and they have the updated job description.
We just put that out last Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, back out.
And basically, we're taking the base pay up to 60,000 total, is what we're doing with that, so.
So do we
We
need
need a motion to do an additional appropriation
Right.
advertisement.
For the 5,885.
Correct.
Oh, I'd like to make a motion to approve that appropriation for the dispatcher.
Motion made by Steve, is there a second? Do I have a second? I'll second it so we can discuss it. Let me hear your,
Well, I wasn't here,
Right.
and so I'm going to abstain, but I'm interested in the discussion.
okay.
My discussion is. Oh, there it is. My discussion is, we won't fill this position if we don't raise the salary. We're not gonna get qualified people in here to do that job. It is already below what they can go to Greene County and get. Monroe County, we're right there. I know we don't compete with Monroe County, but we do compete with Monroe County for personnel and people and employees and staff. So in order to bring in somebody, I think we're gonna have to raise that salary up to a appropriate wage for the position. So that's my thoughts.
So I'm a little, I've got some thoughts on this, but you all did vote to do this, so the appropriation is essentially part of it. So I guess what I don't want to do is rehash this whole thing now that, you know, if it was voted on and approved to move forward. So, but I would just say this. Again, you know, I think Anton mentioned either in passing or maybe at the meeting that, my bad, that I would like to see some methodology to the madness in what we do. So, you know, if it's, hey, let's raise it, you know, well, then let's, you know, either pay the company a couple $100 to make sure that it is in line. Because what we've done is we've been unfair, I think, to some departments, because folks that do have a cash balance have come to us in the past and said, hey, we need a raise and we've got the money, so we want to do this. And there's a lot of offices that don't have a cash balance that would also like to have raises or do those things. So there's got to be some kind of a fair and equitable methodology in moving forward. That's my point.
Well, I think we also forget the purpose of government. The whole reason we're here is for the protection, safety of the taxpayers. That's the first thing. That's the first goal of government, from the federal level down to us. That's it, protection, safety of individuals. All right, so then we go on to our well-being and roads and care and stuff like that. We get caught up in all the other stuff and we forget the top reason for government in general. Protection and safety, well-being, movement of the country. And that goes to our county as well. So we are behind everywhere in our emergency stuff. Emergency services, fire departments, EMS, sheriff's department, and we have been. And we raised everybody up last year. I understand that. But we still have to remember our whole purpose of why we're actually here. Now, if you guys don't agree with that, or anybody doesn't.
I don't
agree
think
with
anybody disagrees with that.
Yeah,
Whatsoever.
understand
My
that.
point is, though, that when you take into account all of those, say, tip of the spear departments, okay? What I'm saying is that you don't want to get one of those ahead of one another either, okay?
Right,
So I don't know, and this whole economy has been such a whirlwind, especially on the job market the last couple of years, that I'm not smart enough to be able to know what's really increased, what's increased a little, what's not, if somebody's taken a step backward. And all I'm saying is, I need a little bit of methodology to this madness, rather than just saying a shot in the dark and saying, let's pick this number out of the air and go with it.
Okay. My methodology is, how many people have applied?
19 people applied, 0 qualifications. The methodology of the money that Andy's asking about is we reached out to Barry Ritter, the consultant we hired when we set up 911, said we need to pay this position $70,000. We can't do that. So we picked a fair $60,000, brought it down 10 grand, but that's what the state is telling us that this job is going to pay, somewhere in the $70,000 range. We're not there. We're trying to get it up somewhere close to where we can get some qualified people. We've got the deputy chief overseeing our 911 center that's putting a strain on the sheriff department because we can't fill this position.
Yeah.
So that's, Barry Ritter's the one that we're taking this advice from. And we paid him as a consultant for this county to help us with this 911.
Sure.
I think where I was coming from, because I did vote for it, the increase, and instead of looking at 911 directors around us, I was thinking about our emergency services, and the director, the 911 director's position was so much lower than, EMS and highway and the sheriff's department, and they were quite a bit lower than everybody else's, and I just thought that needed to be a little bit more comparable. So that's why I was in favor of it. So, you got something to say, bro?
Well, the main thing of it, I think, I hate to see it set a high price for something until we know who we're talking with for us, what their credentials are. We could pay more for the person. I mean, if he got better credentials and he showed us that he is more qualified than just the average Joe, I think we need to find somebody that wants to fill a position, and we can pay according to what they.
But we can't.
But how are we gonna bring them in if we don't pay a comparable?
Well, so let me ask about this, Gary. Is it fair to say that the education level was dropped from this to help qualify some of the 19 individuals that applied?
That was our thought process, but it still didn't fill the need because there just wasn't enough experience in that particular field. So to answer Burl's question maybe a little bit, because you guys voted on this on the 28th, we decided to go ahead. The whole purpose was to get it back out and advertise and bring more people in.
That's what I mean.
So we have advertised this at 54 to 60,000. So we're not concrete at 60,000. We're just saying that this needs to be approved up to 60,000. We can still hire somebody at 58.
Right.
But we've got to get it out there enough to get applicants in that we can fill this. Folks, this is crucial.
We need to get interest.
And the only way we're going to do that is make sure we're paying these people enough to have interest.
Well, I'm going to call for a vote, and I'm not voting yea or nay. So, yeah, I'm going to stay abstained.
I have a question also. And Gary, this is probably for you. There is a committee that is interviewing? Okay,
That is Chris, Matt, and Jack White.
okay.
Advisor.
And what Verl said was kind of what I was implying at our last meeting. But I'm confused now because it's advertised now from 54 to 60. So if someone comes in and they're not qualified to the committees,
These gentlemen here will make that decision or
but
determination.
but I thought we couldn't do that. That's kind of like what I was proposing at our last meeting. Paid,
We couldn't do
upon-
that until we've got a top figure of $60,000.
that's,
They can always,
What I
they can always
said,
dial
that's-
back, they can't go up.
Exactly, and you're right,
Yeah.
Tom. We're not in a position like
Yeah.
independent business where we can negotiate these things. Somebody comes into us and says, hey, I'm worth 75,000, show me, and we'll meet that. We're not here, so we've got to have a top number.
So Gary, I'm sorry, Steve, if, one thing I do want to clarify here though. Yes, we're all partial, okay? I'm partial in the things that I vote for or care about federally that, are tip of the spear type positions. I guess what I'm trying to say is, we made a vote at budget time last year, and that was to bring everybody up to mid-level, okay, based on the data that we had. You remember? Yeah. So the bottom line is, I feel like in order to be able to maintain that, if you start picking and choosing things, okay, we're not talking about what's more important as far as what's out there dodging cars or whatever, no matter what, because I can tell you, you've got an auditor sitting there that would, in a like position, would probably make 2.5 times what she's paid. So if you start picking and choosing things out, that's what worries me about this whole thing, because then the work that we just completed at budget time, then what was it for?
And I understand that too.
I do understand that. And I do also understand that we don't have anybody in dispatch right now. And we're not going to get anybody. No one's knocking down the door. And I understand even at 60,000, that's probably still gonna take a minute to pull somebody in when they can go work the dispatch center in Monroe County as a dispatcher for 64,000.
Yeah. And that's why I'm not gonna get in here and stand on my soapbox and say, let's redo this thing.
Yeah.
You guys know where I'm at. I'm gonna call for a vote.
can I say one more thing? Another issue for me is I just talked to just someone today out in the public, and they were questioning the timing. Like, okay, someone quits, and then are we just gonna, like, if somebody else in a position
Well, we talked
position
about that
quits,
last meeting,
are we
too.
just going, well, I actually had a citizen ask me that. So if somebody quits, are we gonna up that just so we can rehire?
Sure.
So I think it's,
And we talked about that.
yeah, we talked about, but we also talked about the 54 to 60, and I don't understand how we, to me, that's, Anton, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it was a matter of having someone else pick a number that's, I don't know how to describe it, but like we talked about, going lower is one thing. If we say up to a certain amount, they can't go over that.
Right.
If we give them an open-ended range and they advertise it for a lower amount, let's say they picked 57, and then they had an applicant that was outstanding and they needed
right.
60, that could not even be done if you set it up that way. So you could do an up to, which we did, and if they come back and say, yeah, we can hire someone and it's 58, I don't know why the council
why
wouldn't
I-
approve that, because you just
But
saved
that's why I didn't-
$2,000. You see.
That's why I didn't go that high.
Yeah, it's just a
Say 60.
formality, yeah, really.
You know,
Yeah.
if you, right, but I didn't say 60.
It's kinda like an
So,
advertising.
you know,
It
You know.
gives the
Okay.
advisory board a little bit of wiggle room in negotiation with candidates that come in. Chris is sitting here, he's the one that's looking at these applications, and him and I've had several conversations back and forth about this. It's a concern for the county right now,
It's a liability as well.
very much so.
That's,
I-
okay. All those in favor? All those opposed?
One abstention, don't forget me.
One abstention. Okay.
So So what was that, 3?
2, 3, 1. Oh, sorry, 1.
So 3, 4.
3 against.
3
2
against,
for,
2
1
for,
abstain.
I would just feel more comfortable, I would be in favor of this if we went to the actual bigger picture source of analysis and come up with the midpoint for that, which is probably higher, because we have had inflation and changes in the dynamic in the last 3 years, 4 years since that's been done. And if that says, yeah, 50%'s at 59,000, then bingo. We've done our homework, we've got everything in line, and it's fair to everybody else in the system, which I think Councilman Wood was addressing. We just didn't do that. And I think that's the critical part that I feel is missing in the process. Now, we've already lost 2-3 weeks because we already took a certain vote previously, and now that's kind of scuttled. So the backup would be to proceed in having an analysis done, pick the appropriate range, review the job description, I guess, before it's approved, and then move forward with whatever action plan we have at that point.
So when you say have an analysis, are you talking about just for that position, or are you talking about?
At the moment, yes, because that's the key need.
Have you checked into what the cost per
Yes.
job would be?
Yeah, so, and that wasn't necessarily meant tonight, because to be honest, I thought this was going to go through. But as far as in your packets, there is a simple proposal from the consultant on a per-need base. It's kind of like the attorney. You only pay for what you use. You can go to them and say, hey, here's our dilemma. We've got a 911 director position that's vacant. We're having trouble getting qualified applicants. We'd like to do X, Y, Z. This is our thoughts on the job description. Here's the draft. Give us your analysis. Give us the salary range for current market conditions. And then we have that report that we can then take action on at that point. And if it takes 2 hours of work, then it's going to be so much per hour, just a professional service. But at the end of the day, when another department comes and says, hey, why didn't you do this, or why wasn't this considered, then we've got the ability to say, here, we've done the analysis, we've had this in check with our system, and this was what came back, and it was a fair approach. Because one of the things I realized after the last meeting is when we had increased this position to 60, when that initial decision was made, the emergency medical service director is now below this position. And that concerns me, and I know he's in the room. I'm not picking on you, Chris, but I'm using that as a reference that now we have an out-of-whack situation where we have another department head that is equally important, has a bigger budget, a bigger staff, a lot more responsibility, and now it's underpaid. It's not matching up now with some of the other salaries that have been set. So do we change that too? What door are we opening up if we just pick a number and put it towards a particular position without doing the steps that we probably should take to adequately assess the situation and make a decision? And again, that's just some of the complications that come up without doing the legwork, to make that happen.
Well, that makes more sense to me than pulling numbers out of the air. And I respect the fact that, Ritter is well-known and all. The big picture, and I don't know, what's the flash to bang on getting something like this back? Like, how long do they need?
It could be days.
That's my biggest concern.
Yeah, the time, yeah, it wouldn't take months, no.
Yeah, so.
No,
that's
it would be
a huge
something they could
concern.
easily churn out. And if we want to do a follow-up meeting on this before the end of the month, yeah, why not? But I would feel comfortable with that, and I would support that, if we had that, some kind of action on it.
When this says principal, senior consultant, and consultant, those fees, I assume that Mr. Irwin is the
Right.
principal? Is that what, okay.
And I remember when we worked on these last time, it was either the consultant or the senior that did the analysis. So, you know, for even a couple hours of their time, it's, $150. You know, it's not a huge demand. And plus, they don't have to develop a new job description. We already got one. So they already have our stuff in their system. So it probably wouldn't take much. They just need to be asked and do it.
And speaking of that job description, now we keep dragging this
Yes.
thing out. We took out that education component, and I think somebody asked about that. This is the only job description that we have in any of these positions that require an education.
It's one of few.
Yes, and we verified it with the state, it is not required, so why we had it in there, I have no idea. So we want to make sure that we're not putting that title into any of these job descriptions for these type of positions.
Well, I know that the position is crucial for his time element. I know that, but the only thing of it is that when we advertise it, this time of year was the worst time of the year to try to find somebody to put an application. You know,
Still gotta fill the spot.
I'd like to give it like another week or something to see if there's people that would do that before we spend a lot out hunting for people. You know, get the word out of people. Word of mouth will help people.
I think they have gotten the word out.
No, we've
Right,
done it, we've,
right.
county website, Ryan's
Yeah.
checked with dispatchers at the state level, I mean, we've tried every avenue we can.
And this has been going for over a month, correct?
Yeah, but we
We've
just
been
decided on the
advertising.
28th to do this, the limit though.
If I can make a point too, keep in mind that there are compliance things that Matt knows nothing about. This is not what he does for a living. And he's come back to me and said, hey, I don't know this stuff. This is not what I do. I've never been taught this stuff, don't know it. That's why it is a very specific job. And
Right.
the longer we go without it, there's certain things that are required we don't know about.
I
Somebody
understand
knows,
that.
And we're gonna end up behind the 8 ball.
Gonna end up really behind the 8 ball because there's an annual report that is due, and bless Matt's heart, he has worked really hard on it, kept in touch with Gary. Kathleen had left a lot of the numbers there, but it is due, and if it is not turned in on time, you will not get any more money in that
That's
fund.
what I'm concerned about, is fund cutting.
And Matt does not know this stuff. This is not, he doesn't understand it, so.
Right, I understand.
So, well, while
And I absolutely don't know either, but
So while we are, quibbling over, over a little over $5,000, I mean, we could be really cutting ourselves off at the knees.
But, I mean, there's a long-term impact on the $5,000 too. I mean, it's going to be a set rate of pay. So, I'm more apt to want to make sure that
So
we're in line.
what can we do to get this moving forward then, that everybody would be on board with? Because we've got to get that position filled. So, I mean, do we want to?
So why don't we consider this? If there's a commitment to engage, and what I would feel more comfortable in is engage in the process and do the steps to formally evaluate and come up with the statement. If that is a part of it, then I would be in favor of, we should at least pass the advertisement. Because that's all we were considering, right? Was passing the advertisement this evening to start that clock. So we could do both, so that way we're not losing time on the advertisement part, because that had to be done anyway. In the meantime, we get what we need and have the appropriate levels confirmed or not, or something entirely different. It may be more, I don't know. But by the time we then re-meet, which we would have met anyway in February to finalize or make the appropriation, you'll have what you need to do it.
But how do we advertise it? Do we advertise it up to 60 because we don't know if that's where it's gonna be?
Well, if we
That's the problem.
advertise, if we approve the advertisement tonight up to that, then we already have the public backing for the advertisement.
If that's where you're going.
You see where I'm going with that?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
At least it's a number that because you may come back from this and they're gonna say, hey, 65 is the midpoint.
Yeah, well, then we'd have to take
You gotta take more action.
we'd have to take more action. But at least we can take that, we're not losing ground. And maybe we could up it, if you want to be safe, instead of up to 60, up to 65,
I
you
want
know.
the 22,000 citizens of this county to be safe. That's what this whole discussion's all about.
Sure.
It's not about 2,000, 5,000, it's about the safety of the people of this county. And when those dispatchers answer those calls, we got somebody in there that's running the place and knows what's going on.
Of the 19 applicants, and, I'm not on that board, I mean, how, are they not trainable?
They don't have the certifications.
Well, yeah, but you can get that.
There's,
You don't have to.
They can get those
They'll need time.
certifications, but what we have got so far, and can't discuss a whole lot of this stuff, but no one is even to the point of putting together an interview. Can I say that correctly, Chris? I mean, I've looked at the applications, I have them at home, go through them, Chris and the advisory boards went through them, and I feel that we're all in the same discussion here.
Plus, it takes time.
It does take.
If someone doesn't have a certain certification, they're going to have to get it.
Correct.
Would you mention that in the motion?
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we advertise out of the Fund 1222, up to, and I'm just going to pick a little higher number, just so we have flexibility, up to 10,000 for the additional appropriation. This is just for advertisement only. We're not saying we're going to pay 10,000, but to be considered at our next meeting. But in the meantime, along with that, we approve engagement on a per-need basis through the consultant, Wagner Irwin Scheel, and their first job or task is to analyze this draft job description that's been prepared for us and provide the salary range with the midpoint for the position of 911 director.
motion made by Anton, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Andy.
Are we advertising for the position or advertising for the appropriation?
Appropriation. Yeah, because that's what was the original request.
Yeah, the
But it
position's
was,
ongoing.
it was a little lower because we were operating under the 60. But I think to be safe, we're just going to give it 10 even for advertisement. That way, like Gary was referring to, in case there's some kind of a little higher number or something, we've got enough to work with.
So is 54 to 60, that's the way it's gonna be advertised? 60?
Well,
Well,
it's,
we're
this
talking
isn't,
about that, this is the additional appropriation that we're talking about advertising.
Okay.
It'll be up to that amount,
Up
but
to
the
10,000,
midpoint,
that is
Okay.
the range is what we're gonna be paying attention to, I think, once we get it back.
So, but right now, what we're
Okay.
doing is just the additional
the
appropriation.
additional appropriation. We're still going to have to finalize the salary, the final number anyway.
Right.
In February with the final appropriation approval.
Okay.
So if it's not something a majority likes, then it can still be reevaluated or voted down or whatever. But as far as moving this forward without losing any more time, but still try to do the right thing, I think it's a good happy medium here to move this forward.
So if we get the appropriation done, we advertise that, that goes, we're done with that. We get our consultant to come back, and they come back at 60, 64, 59.
Right.
We're all good, all of us are good with going ahead forward for the advertisement.
I would feel very.
That means we can't advertise this job position at that salary, correct?
We never said they couldn't advertise, they've already have,
Up to
Up to 60.
up to 60. So I think that should just stay the way it is. I mean, that already was voted on. This is
And
the
then somebody
appropriation
gets
part.
64.
Okay.
Additional appropriations of 10,000.
So are there any other questions?
Was there a second?
Yes, Andy.
Yeah.
Okay, second.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor? Motion carried.
So Polly, if you want to sign off on that engagement, then we
Okay.
can reach out to them and let's get it started first thing in the morning. Let's
Is
get our
that-
answer as quickly as
Is that in
possible.
here or just,
I think it's a copy in there somewhere.
we have it in,
There's one in the,
is there
I
one in
believe
here?
it's in the green folder.
Okay.
And where am I paying it from?
Contract services under the council's budget. That's already budgeted, so.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because I think there's very good points all around. And Andy, you missed the discussion at our December meeting, and I thought it was a very good discussion on the different elements here. We just need to make sure we hit all the boxes and do the right thing and make sure we don't lose time with it, so. Good discussion.
Okay. All right, on to the Sheriff's Department employee request.
So my request is, we currently have 3 part-time cook positions for the jail, and that we are requesting that we eliminate those and put those into 1 full-time position. Since February, we've had a cook position advertised. We've had 1 applicant who was not serious about wanting to be a cook. They were complying with certain benefits from the state that they had to apply so many places. We have our current cook who is fallen ill and is no longer coming in at this point. He's had some issues where he's not been able to work what he's supposed to be scheduled anyway due to health issues, and we need a full-time cook. We need someone there. Right now I have 3 inmates who are cooking. All of them get out within 20-some days, and I will have nobody left to cook.
Are any of them looking for jobs when they get out?
One's moving to Alaska, one's moving to Columbus, and I have no idea what the other guy's doing.
So, Anton, what is the amount, when you figure it, or have you? Yeah, okay.
The chief deputy had already done a pretty good analysis of this, and it's in your packet.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I'm
He
sorry.
outlines the costs associated with that. I've got it up here somewhere.
Ah, I got it. Got it.
Oh, here it is. And yes, there wasn't a specific dollar amount entered into the appropriation sheet, but if you look at the bottom of that letter, it indicates what the total cost would be. And then if you subtract out,
Yeah, what's the current position?
yeah, that's what I'm gonna give you here, is currently we budget in terms of wage, $24,265. And then you have your FICA on that, which is about 7.65%. So that would be subtracted from the total at the bottom. If I'm not mistaken, Sheriff, is that correct?
Yes.
Because the wage was gonna be $31,200, and then you had the FICA and the perf and the benefits. So the grand total was $44,554, and I can give you a quick figure here. Then you subtract 26,120.50. So the net cost of this proposal is $18,433.50. If that, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have somebody in mind?
No, but I would take suggestions. Or we're not gonna have anybody to cook. And if you need a side gig, the hours are flexible.
I could do it. You know, I might consider it. Who knows?
So when you're looking at the additional appropriation of the amount that Anton just gave of the $18,433.50 would be your first step. And you also need to adopt the job description.
So you've got one part-time cook right now.
I have one, but he's in the nursing home.
And, so with the one part-time plus the inmates that help is what you're going on right now? I mean, when he was healthy?
When he was healthy, yes.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm just going on inmates, yes.
Okay.
And a full-time individual, and I remember Matt talking about this a year or two ago. I mean, this is not necessarily
It's not
a
new.
today issue. But at that time, the discussion also dug into some other areas where there may be some deficiencies, including, meal planning and dietary stuff. There's still a lot, supply ordering, there's some administrative things that kind of come with.
There are. My matron
That
takes
role.
care of the ordering right
Okay.
now. We have a contract with Kelwell, which is that allows us to have better buying power since we can't store anything, just due to we have no place to put anything. Kelwell allows us to have the buying power through them. We've gone one full month of using Kelwell at this point, and we are about $5,000 cheaper than what we have been in previous years.
Okay.
So, and we've had our numbers around 60 inmates, so it's not like we've been lacking inmates.
Right.
That's helped us out a lot. They have a dietitian that we use that's part of our contract with them. So we don't have to worry about the caloric intake and all of that. That's what they take care of. They allow us to have the buying power through them, so we get the orders through them. It's an online thing, so the new cook position, they would be placing the orders, making sure that what the meal plan calls for the dietitian, that those items are ordered to make the meals, and then making sure that the meals are prepped properly.
So, Ryan, you and us are in a very tight spot because I know you got different, well, first of all, we've got this huge elephant over here, and then you've got other priorities, and this is obviously one of those priorities that you want to change, and I totally get it. My question is, with this contract, and I think in passing you mentioned it to me before, that the buying power equated to some cost savings, is there going to be any cost savings to your food or things that I guess could be rebudgeted towards something, like?
And I would like to know for certain. I would say that is a possibility, but until we've gone a year under this Kelwell, I really don't want to say one way or another.
Okay.
We've experienced 1 month of it, and we saved $5,000 in 1 month. Excellent. That's awesome. I hope the rest of the year proves the same, and we have the same record. But I don't know until we experience it. Like I said, we've only experienced the first 30 days.
I understand.
But it has helped.
It has helped tremendously.
And, maybe that's the silver lining in this as far as my next question, which is the money. I mean, we know your budget is razor thin. We have specifically allocated money towards the jail project, which we all know is very critical, we fund. And so anything that we add to other expenses is going to take away or tighten the budget.
Right, and that's why I'm saying eliminate the 3 part-time positions that we have
Right.
in our budget. Eliminate 3 of them and just make 1 full-time.
And we've done that, but the cost is still,
It's still a
that's,
little higher.
the net
Yes.
cost is still the net cost.
Right.
And so, thinking about that 18 or 19,000 then, if you have already saved 5, and that's not, that might be just an upfront boost, but if over the year's time, there's some money, how confident, I know this is a tough question, but how confident do you feel that we might get that money's worth?
Kelwell's study showed that before we ever signed a contract with them, they did a study free of cost for us, and they said that based on the average number of inmates that we have and the number of trays that we have, that they expect that we would save an average of $40,000 a year through them. And
Wow.
again, our first month has already shown 5,000 in 1 month.
Okay.
If we stay on that, I think that they're right. I hope that they're right. It seems to be working so far.
We just need 18.
Even if they were half right,
Yes.
we're good.
Even if they're half
And
right.
that's where I'm going with this. If we have as a part of the decision, if the majority was going to vote for this, and we needed to do a fairly budget neutral thing here, I would feel more comfortable with that. Would you be able to then reduce or transfer the line item that's going towards that part of this, and then we have the additional then to allocate to make this work?
Correct, yes.
Is that something, I don't know if
I
that's
guess the
something
only thing that I'm concerned about is we think that that's, the savings it's gonna be.
Right. It is an
I would
estimate.
I would be a little bit more comfortable if we were like 3 or 4, 6 months in and, it was, I look at the, cash balance of that fund and, it's just very tight. So that's the only thing that's got me concerned.
My thing is, I am personally willing to take the risk because honestly, my thing is knowing that this is a real priority, Ryan, because things are so razor thin, if it doesn't work out, it's kind of on you for future stuff. So this is like, hey, if the money's not there, then it could cut into other things. So,
or you could go back to part-time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we do or whatever, but there are some adjustments that might end up needing to be made if it doesn't particularly work out. The other part is on the wage, and I know 15 is not that far from 14.379, but I would feel more comfortable if we stuck with the wage because that was increased a bit from 23 because we were bringing it to the midpoint. So we already had a job description that matched up pretty close and an analysis that put us at that rate. And yes, there's some inflationary effect in all this, but to just simply avoid any further formal review and all that, I would feel comfortable leaving it at the pay rate. Do you think that would be a detrimental problem to the proposal?
I do, because
Okay.
if they want to come work for me inside of a jail, or they can go to Burger King and they can make more money, I would go to Burger King if it were me.
Okay.
Why would they not go somewhere else? They're going to do the same job.
Even with benefits?
Yes.
Okay.
So the 18,433.50, was that based on his?
That's based on 15.
Okay.
So that's a good figure. But I was just wondering, and it's not a big difference generally, but it might be enough to remove the stigma of the fast food industry and that kind of thing. And that individual that you may lose has substantial number of years of service with us, and so that the net rate that individual was getting is far more than that anyway, because we do offer longevity and things like that. But I don't think it's actually worth the added expense for the little difference in cost
So
anyway, so.
my thing is, I want this to be flat. I want this to not be taken out of anything. So if they told you that $40,000 a year in savings, and I know we can't put our thumb exactly on the number, but this amount is under half, And with that, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we take from his food line item the amount of $18,433.50 annually. You can grant the request.
I'll second that.
Made by Andy, seconded by Verl. Any questions on that?
So we're gonna reduce the food line item by the cost estimate. Then we're gonna reconfigure the part-time wage line item.
At
and find
15.
that to-
Right.
Okay.
So we're on, to fill this out, additional appropriation request.
18.
From food to the position, which would be one position of cook.
Yeah, it was 18,433.50.
Okay.
And let me check one other thing here real quick. Is that the right benefits cost? 74.72?
And I would just tell you that if it doesn't work out, you need to come up with some money out of your own pocket to buy a cookbook.
Stacy already guaranteed you that. Out of yours.
Coffee cake.
I also want to add, first of all, he has 558,000 left in his cash balance, but he's also bringing in $25,564 a month this year compared to last year. He's up to $2,888 and $288,564 is what he'll be bringing in every month now.
Okay,
So
yeah, and that's,
it's
and we know that in the budget number.
306,000.
Yes, it's already in the grand total, but, okay.
Okay, are we ready to take a vote? All those in favor? Motion carried.
Well, we appreciate Matt's
Thank
work
you.
on this.
Thanks. Thank you guys for what they're doing.
Yeah.
All right, on to community crossings grant
Yes.
request.
Hi, Gary.
Good evening, Council. In your last meeting, I put together a request for additional appropriation in regard to the Community Crossings Grant. We are part of a pilot program by NDOT where we could get up to $1.5 million for road work, but we have to have the $500,000 in the match. Council's already approved $333,333, so I'm requesting an additional appropriation for $166,667.
667.
I'm gonna
It's
go
on the-
ahead.
Wait a minute,
Oh,
it's,
okay.
it's written down as 166,067. Is that a typo or?
Pardon?
Make sure that total is correct. Rick.
66067 is what was approved at the 1228 meeting.
Okay.
And you guys had committed to pay it from the local road and street. So if he needs, which I think he has to have a letter pretty
Yes.
soon to send, we will still have to commit it out of the local road and street. Once you do the additional appropriation at your February meeting, then that amount can be put in there and you won't really ever touch the balance. You're just doing a commitment letter. But it's the 166,067.
Okay. All right, just wanted to make sure that was,
Yeah, so in the motion then that I'm gonna make, we're gonna proceed in advertising $166,067 from local road and street fund 1169 for the purpose of committing the rest of the match for community crossings. And we're also gonna take the appropriate steps for the long-term solution or step, which is increasing the line item in the edit fund to the appropriate total that we will eventually be using for this when we're awarded the grant. That makes sense.
okay, a motion's been made by Anton. Is there a second?
166,667.
Well, she said that this is the amount, it probably is the 166.67, but I think,
That would equal 500,000.
yeah, she had said that that is actually the number that was approved by the
And we
commissioner.
can verify.
Is that
I mean,
right?
that was
Approved by
what
you guys, I think, at your special meeting, wasn't it?
I don't think is really going to matter in this case, but, yeah, whatever we're legally allowed to do.
We'll verify the exact dollar amount.
Pardon?
We'll verify the exact dollar amount.
The exact dollar amount is $666,667, but I mean, I'm not gonna haggle over $600.
Well, and we're only starting the appropriation, so
we can add it, yeah.
Yeah.
So my motion is technically amended to be $166,667.
Okay.
I'm going to second Anton's motion.
Motion made by Anton, seconded by Andy. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay.
Thank you. This community crossing this year, council's been a moving project. The auditor has to attest to what has been appropriated. I'm not asking for an additional appropriation in regard to this, but I would ask that the council allow the auditor to be able to go above the $500,000 out of my local road and street up to $10,000. That will make sure that I get the full 2 million, because I have to have those numbers perfectly on with the estimate to get the $2 million. So I may have some type of overreach to get that. So that has to be attested to, and that would be, I would ask that be done with commissioner approval.
So you're saying that if in order to make the complete project work, and there's some money above and beyond what we would get on the match or the grant, that you still want the flexibility to utilize the funds out of local road and street?
That's correct.
Is that right?
And,
Okay.
Council, Commissioner Burton and I spoke about this just a few moments ago. Again, community crossing this year's been a moving target, but from my estimates that I put out, I think I'm going to be about $3,000 over to get this road project, all these 10 road projects done with community crossing. I don't want to just say $3,000 because we don't know where they're going to land, but I think it's really close. So I would just ask for the flexibility out of local road and street for the 10,000.
So wouldn't we already approved a budget that has line items to spend for the appropriate materials. Is that sufficient already?
It is sufficient, but the auditor has to attest that I could spend that money for this project. So I thought I should ask this board to say that it's okay with commissioners.
I'm going to make a motion. The commissioners, they can do their on their end, but I'll just make it a motion that the auditor gets a nod from the council president and do it that way.
Thank you.
Yeah. That way you got both.
Just put a limit on it up to $10,000.
Up to $10,000.
I'll second that.
Yep.
Motion made by Andy, seconded by Verl. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you, council.
All right, so salary ordinance, there's going to need to be 2 actions taken, and I'm going to do motion on the first one, our normal batch of employee changes that occurred since our December meeting, early December meeting. So this is for 23 only. I think there's 5 of them in the packet for you to sign, Polly. So I'm going to make a motion that we accept those and have the president sign them.
Motion made by Anton, is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Seconded by Andy. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried.
The second one is going to concern all of the 24s. Now, this is a bit more involved. What we did is we had basically built the new spreadsheet and did all the conversions. You've got a copy, a hard copy in your packet, dated January 2nd of '24. Now, there is a version D dated today that hasn't really changed anything majorly, but just clarified what we're doing in terms of assessors and deputy assessors and the level. If you remember at our December 28th meeting, I think we actually took a vote for the record to make sure that we're giving the level certification pay in the form of either an hourly or salaried rate instead of through the claims process. So that is also reflected in the newer version. I think there were just some minor cleanup on some formulas and things, but the bottom line is that the stack of almost 200 of these for 24 for Polly to sign does reflect all of the latest 2024 amounts that everybody's supposed to get paid. So I'm going to make a motion that we authorize the president to adopt and sign off on those.
And I'll second that as well.
Motion made by Anton, seconded by Andy. Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion carried.
And if there are any technical issues, mistakes, issues, be sure to let us know as soon as possible, because we need to make sure those get addressed. But I know that we've had like 3 sets of eyes on this, 4 sets of eyes, so I think we've been pretty diligent in cutting through some of the follow-up items. And I appreciate the auditor's office working on this, so.
Okay. So with that being done, elected officials and department head comments. Jennifer.
I wanted to introduce Jim Luzar. He is Extension's new ag and natural resources educator. And so we've been anxiously awaiting his arrival. And he's been here about a month and already off and running in the community, so.
Welcome.
Your reputation precedes you. We've heard that you're very experienced and, a great asset to Owen County, so welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate being here, and I want to do a good job for the county. I'm a taxpayer in Putnam County, and I've worked with a lot of county councils, and it's definitely on my mind about that this is a position that's funded by the public. So
Thank you, sir.
I'm looking forward. I've already enjoyed it in the county. I think there's some opportunities in agritourism that Jennifer and I have talked about, brainstormed about working to bring some more economic activity into the county. I think there's just a lot of really neat operations in the county that we could bring some tourism dollars in and leave them here in the county. So that's one of the projects we're working on.
Sounds
So,
great.
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And how did you spell your last name?
Luz, as in zebra, AR.
Great. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then I just left with you and just kind of a quick hit sheet on the highlights of 2023 and 4-H. So I didn't want to take up a whole lot of time to go into in depth, but those were just some of the quick highlighted programs outside of fair, right? That I wanted to make sure you were aware of. There's a lot more happening, but those were some of the highlights. So if you have any questions, let me know, and please come and join us for events, activities. We're always looking for volunteers if anyone's interested. So keep us in mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess they're on to public comments. Welcome, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
Yeah, public comments.
Public comments, we're-
All right.
Just in time,
Yeah, just in time.
Oh, yes.
No, go ahead.
There's a microphone now, Jeff. We have a new system,
Forgot
and it's on, so
Yeah, thank you. Does this work okay?
Yes,
Great.
make sure and speak in your deep, scary voice.
Oh, sure, okay. Thank you, Jeff Marks, Fish Creek Road. I'm not dressed as I normally am because I said, well, I'll stay home tonight and not come in. Okay, and I just come in from shoveling, so sorry about that. So
I have some input on this whole thing about the 911 director. And the input is, I once worked at a place where they put out an offer to an individual, and that individual had accepted it, quit their other job, and then that place rescinded the offer. Okay. Now, what I'm hearing, and I did attend virtually the commissioners meeting the other day, and there was a question raised about, well, is it okay to go ahead and advertise on Indeed, I'll do it that way, Indeed, as opposed to the kind of advertising you guys are talking about. And there was some discussion about that because it wasn't, it was pointed out that the council had approved moving forward at $60,000, but had not done the appropriation yet. And there was some hesitancy about going ahead and approving, putting the thing on Indeed. I'll use Indeed because it's easier than saying, because we all get messed up on that advertising thing. So I don't know, I'm sorry, Mr. Burton's outside, but I don't know how to proceed because I think people assume when you guys make a comment or when you make a vote that the other stuff is just details, okay? And maybe the fact is you all ought to stop assuming. That's the council and the commissioners, okay? Because I'm an old fellow, okay? And you know, assume makes an ass out of you and me, okay? And so here we are. The state of the matter is, I think it's a great idea to see if it's leveled and all that kind of stuff, but let's suppose somebody shows up tomorrow who's an ideal candidate and wants $60,000. Does the committee give him an offer, him or her an offer, with the presumption that, well, we're going to tell you we're not exactly sure we can have that money yet because we don't have it approved, and we sent it out on Indeed, but we were just, that was aspirational, we don't really know, okay? And you guys, in my opinion, it's my opinion, you guys got to do better. You got to rearrange stuff. You got to, if you had concerns about the leveling of the job in December, you should have said, we're going to vote for it, but we think you ought to wait on advertising it. Or if the commissioners, it makes us look not terribly professional.
So Jeff,
And let me finish and then I'll let you go. Okay. And if it were, look, as I've said before, Chris has been to my house, okay, when I had a fire alarm, okay. As a resident of Owen County, I depend on the ability to say 911 or have the alarm company call 911 and have that call answered and have it dispatched out to the residents. That is, I know everything is important, and I know, so don't get me wrong, but I'm selfish. I want the emergency services to work. Okay. So I urge you going forward. First of all, I urge a little bit more rapidity with respect to you said we're going to advertise it. Okay, so, great. So it's 10 days from now. you're going to do it in February. In the meantime, the ideal candidate shows up tomorrow. I'm making that up, of course, but you know what I'm saying. Before that February meeting, and we're stuck, okay? We're stuck. You say we're not stuck?
No, we can call a special meeting anytime.
Okay, well, why aren't you doing, why is it that we are sitting here going, okay, we'll call a consultant tomorrow, and the consultant will tell us we'll be back. When's your meeting of February? Okay, I'll do it on the 30th of January. Okay. Why aren't we saying, we need this now? Okay, 1 week from today, we're gonna meet, we need this thing done. Oh, well, of course, et cetera. But you see where I'm coming from, it just drags out. Okay. That's my input, thank you.
So,
Yes, Andy.
I had a kidney stone
Yeah.
and wasn't able to be.
I
And
understand.
it passed 2 days later, so we're good. But
At least that worked fast.
yeah. Not efficient, but it was fast.
Sorry.
So I went to the checkup today for it, and it was jagged. They evaluated it, so it wasn't efficient
Not
at all.
pleasant, yeah.
But anyway, so wasn't here, but the appropriation side of it is a formality, and of course, if people, don't, they have a right to vote or not vote for it too. The second thing is, and I guess the reason why I'm responding is, I've been a corporate recruiter. I've spent most of my life in HR, and the thing is, the formal job offer, I've seen it where people have quit their jobs before that formal job offer, and, that has got to be right. It's got to, and if there's any, I guess, issue, then everybody needs to slow down, contact her, whatever, but we can't screw that up. And so my input is, if we're not doing that already, it's got to be done, because that's where it matters.
And in my case, it was a case where, and it wasn't me personally, it was somebody who I knew the boss who had to deliver that message to somebody after the offer went out. They had the paper that said, here's the offer.
Yeah.
Then they quit.
Yeah.
Then we call back and says, oh, never mind. Or we can't actually pay you that money.
Yeah.
So just be careful, because,
Yeah.
and
And there was some
you've been on both
controls.
sides of it, so you know the story.
Yeah, there was some controls put into it, I think Anton did, to kind of help this thing out. I think, but yeah, there was a lot of discussion, so.
Okay, all right. Sorry, but I.
And I understand your frustration. I think we all feel it at one time or the other. But, because, I thought this was kind of rolling along, so, but you have my word that we're gonna get this done as soon as possible, even if we do have to have a extra meeting, whatever it takes, because that definitely needs to be filled. It's a very important position, and I agree with you.
Okay, thank you. I'll go away now.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Per the process, and unfortunately with the newspaper only advertising once a week, I have until this Friday to get it advertised for next Wednesdays, and if you do your 10 days notice for a public hearing, we can't have a meeting before the 27th
27th of January.
January. So, and that being a Saturday, you're looking at Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So the soonest, if you decided to go ahead and advertise, is because we have to have it in the paper.
Yeah.
Though, I will say that to interview somebody, to vet them, that's 17 days, so it could come after that date, the formal job offer, so I still think we're okay.
Baron.
I don't come up there, but just hear me. I think what needs to be done is better marketing on that. 911 is too tough of a job. I know some people that have done that down in Indianapolis, and it's, man, psychologically, it's a bummer. So what I'm saying is this, if you really want to get this job, and you want to offer up to some particular value, that's fine. But the deal about it is, newspaper ads and stuff should be set so that you help pay to get them certified. They sign a 2-year contract. You need to flower it up with benefits, or you need to tell people that, hey, if I go take this job, they're gonna pay for my certification, they're gonna pay for this, they're gonna pay for the schooling, they're gonna pay for, what I'm saying is, you market it to sell it, because you need to sell this position, not just ask people, well, you wanna do it kinda sorta, you know, it's okay, you wanna sell it. And so we need marketing, what's what we really need, to make people, out of the 19 offers he got, we should have 7 or 8 of them fighting for the position, rather than anybody standing around saying, well, we're just not qualified, we're not, you know, emotionally able to handle this. And the people need to take the job, need to know what's actually entailed too. Because if you think you're gonna just sit at a phone all day and say, yeah, okay, I'll take care of it, and punch a button, it don't work that way. So marketing is what we need to do here, if you want to get this position filled. The money's not enough, but what I'm saying is, a 2-year contract, if you pay for the certification and the other skills that they need and the training, then I think you might be able to get somebody to take it. I'm done.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
Good to see you back, Baron. I haven't seen you in a long
Oh, I've
time.
been real bad sick. I had 2 more heart attacks and some other stuff.
I'm sorry to hear
I've been
that.
covered up for quite a while. And the job I've got, the elected position for township trustee, like I talked to them about, that's been a huge deal, a big learning process for me. And like that one, where's the, there he is. You talk about things moving slow, but you got a big budget, you gotta hire all these people to do all this other stuff. It takes forever to do anything. It's Project Z when you have to work out a big budget. Yeah.
Any other public comment? All right, we'll move on to Sheila.
We have a lot of grants, and I just want you guys to think about maybe appointing a grants committee with a few of you, especially between now and budget hearings, just to kind of see where we're at, monitoring them, we have more grants than any other county for the most part, and which is a good thing, it's bringing in money and helping budgets and things, but it's a lot to keep up with and reporting on and those things. The other is payroll issues. We've just had a couple in the last couple of weeks of either what our ending balances are. We have gone back and looked clear back to 2016. And this particular year, there's 8 days left, so we should have 8 days of the monies in that fund to encumber and bring forward to add to the 6 days. There is very few funds that have that amount to bring forward. People are getting their salaries, they're just getting them all in the same calendar year from it. So there's a couple options. You could go to 26 pays a year, or we need to maybe consider doing additional appropriations to get some of those funds in there because there's nothing left to carry forward. So everybody got paid their monies and some encumbered, but we are going to be short if we're looking at just the balances, and that's not the way that it was intended. But we've gone back clear to 2015-16 when LAO started, and those ending funding balances aren't there to carry forward. So again, possibly a committee to look in to see if we can come up with a way to get some in there so that we're not borrowing from one year to the next or paying the prior year out of your first paycheck in the new year. So just think about it, please.
I think that it's probably a little bit less complicated in terms of the solution there. Is just you tell us where it's short, and then we plug that hole to bring it up to par, assuming that there's a fix moving forward. And I think you mentioned in conversation that moving forward, we've figured out what the issue is and how to prevent it. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you mentioned that in years past, in that split payroll between the expiring year and the new year,
all of the New Year's was taken from the new year. That first paycheck, even though part of that first paycheck was for a pay period that included the old year, the last few days of the old year, that might be 6, it might be 8. And it basically, you overspent the New Year's budget at the very beginning and created this gap. Is that correct? So if we fill it and basically bring that up to 0, and moving forward, we make sure that on those split paychecks, whatever was earned and payable in 23 is taken from 23, and whatever's new for the 24 part's taken from 24. We shouldn't have the problem. Is that correct? Okay. So I'm not sure there needs to be any major thing, as long as you're able to identify what those gaps were. And then we can figure out then where to cover that. Is that okay?
We'll try to, we're gonna have to look again where we're at currently in this payroll, because again, it's the split. That'll give us a more accurate number of what we're looking at to be able to come back and do appropriations for.
Yeah, and, I'll help any way we can, and I'm sure any of us can jump in. From the council standpoint, we want to make sure that whatever amount we budgeted for a specific budget year for pay, that's the amount that the person got paid.
Correct.
We want to make sure they get paid what we said. And they're at the correct rate, or paid at the correct amounts that our salary ordinance had authorized. And so as long as those requirements have been met, then we got to look at the accounting side and figure out, okay, now where was the gaps in terms of the money part, and what do we need to do to bring that back up to par. So,
In addressing the second half of your request, Madam Auditor, who would like to be on a grants committee with Polly? 2 other people? Because I'm going to make a motion. And Amy? Anyone else? You're a Tennessee resident anyway. That's why you're wearing the orange shirt underneath. And if Nick's watching from home, he's getting nominated as well.
He was last time.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we appoint Polly, Amy, and Nick to the Grants Committee.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Andy, seconded by Earl.
and this will be to help develop protocol guidelines.
Yes.
It's
For-
kind of also to kind of keep track, make sure, everybody's staying within their,
Will that include, we talked about during budget hearings in '23 we talked about rural transit area 10 and community. Will you go ahead and
I don't,
look at that too?
Is that, or is it just mainly keeping track of?
It's keeping track of the
Yeah.
current grants that we have, not.
So us as a recipient,
Yes.
Right.
not as a grantor?
Right.
Okay, got it. Just want to make sure that's clear, because the other still needs to be done.
Just kind
So-
of, keeping track that, everybody's staying within their.
I'll call
Okay.
for a vote.
Oh, yeah, all those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, anything else, Sheila?
The second half of the payroll issue is we were lucky enough that we were able to move around and do enough transfers for the buyouts that we've had. Every time an employee leaves in the payouts, that is what hurt us in the last couple weeks of the year. We scraped by to barely get the sheriffs covered without going in the red. That was the big thing. We got to make sure that we either put money in a fund, reserve it as an additional appropriation for those, or everybody is immediately gonna have to come to the next council meeting and get it replaced. And I get it, they might save money along the year, but we can't wait. Just like this, it takes almost 3.5 weeks to do a public hearing.
I would like to see, before they do a buyout, come and inform the council, before it's ever paid out, so we've got that kind of on the
If I may, it doesn't get to that point. They only give a 2 weeks notice. So if you had just had a council meeting and they turn their notice in, it doesn't get to that point before I have to pay them out, because I pay them out on the next check.
I guess maybe
County
what I'm talking is more
policy.
like a retirement, where you know that's coming, not necessarily when someone quits.
Yeah.
The county policy says they're to be paid out immediately their next check. So unless you want to give some flexibility that, 30 days in hopes that we could get into, but we just really need to keep a closer eye on that. And there was more turnover than ever this last year in the last 3 years. It just was constant, so.
So council be thinking about, how we want to address that. Anything else, Sheila? All right, on to council comments. We've got our meeting schedule. Need to,
Yeah, you need to read that.
I have a question, and you may know. How long does it take to be certified for the 911 director position? How long is the course, and where do you go, and is it expensive, and
I'd have to ask the advisory board, Chris knows.
you don't know how long it takes to be certified? I know I was
I
hoping.
wish I could tell you.
And he
but I
just
don't.
left, didn't he?
He's sitting right
Oh,
out
is he?
there.
Okay.
Steve, do you know?
No, but I don't think it's more about just the certification, this is knowledge and training and a background in this matter. So you could hire a store manager. They have management capabilities, they've been doing that, but that doesn't really apply, and it's not applicable, and it's a totally different job. If you ever sat down there for a day, you'd be shocked, especially a
Well,
busy day.
but the certification was brought up tonight.
Yeah,
If
the
nobody
Yeah.
had been certified, so if it's like 3 months or 3 days, And on the
Kathleen
job
was,
training.
but I don't know if she had that before she got here, I'm sure she did. It's probably one of the, Chris is saying she did, so.
Is it a long course?
I honestly don't know. I really don't know, but I know that Kathleen brought a lot to the table.
Well, I know that. Well, I'm just asking because, it was brought up during the meeting and nobody was certified, and I mentioned, but they can be, and I'm thinking it's probably not that long of a process. And regardless if someone has a college education or not, I am very interested in what kind of people are applying, because there's got to be people that are willing to learn and are capable of, taking on that responsibility and get a certification in however long it takes. I don't imagine it's that long. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, and if they've got a clear background check and have a high school education and they're willing to work, I just can't help but think that there's somebody.
It takes some management skills too, because they're dealing with employees, they're dealing with payroll, they're dealing with policy, they're dealing with tax revenues coming in. There's a lot more to it than standing behind a console on radio.
Oh, I know that.
It's a
I know,
management
just like all of the other
Yeah.
positions. I get that, but I don't know. I just think there's the people, if they're willing to learn and come in and say, I don't have a lot of experience in management skills, but, I don't know. It's just hard to think that, out of 20 people or 19 people, that nobody had any potential. I don't know. And maybe not. And, I know there's a lot of people that I think they said they want jobs.
Chris, how many people with dispatch experience out of that application applied?
3.
I think that's where the problem comes in. It's not the managers that would come in, it's the dispatcher's experience, behind the radio time, that is crucial. Because you gotta know that aspect first, and then the management part of it is just a different.
What if someone had done dispatch in a different way,
Well, that may
other
be-
than 911?
That may be even a truck
highway
dispatcher.
or,
Yeah.
petroleum products.
I
or-
think we've got to get over the fact that, 911 is a very, 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 people thinking that dispatchers are a glorified secretary that answers the phone
Right.
and just passes on the message. That's way
Well, I certainly don't
past
think that.
Right.
That's
But
not at all what I'm
one, you
saying.
know, of the three, of those three, one will return phone calls or emails. Another one took a job, and there was one that dispatched trash trucks.
But it's just a totally different scene. When you're in a,
I know that.
That's not an emergency.
That's,
No, I know.
It is at my house.
Well, I just wanted to know, and I really am interested
There's
in
still
knowing
some
how
basics, a lot of
the course
multitasking,
to
being
become
able to pick
certified
up multiple
takes.
voices and, yeah.
2 years?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Empathetic, you know, empathy.
Yes.
Well, we kind of.
You gotta have good
we
customer
talked about
service.
that, so that's why I want to find out. So
Yep.
where do I check into finding that out?
Yeah, I would say very
You
rare.
could hire someone that had good skills, except for being certified, and possibly be certified in a week. I don't know.
I don't think that's reality.
I-
A week, because I know that just to be on a console with someone backing you up is a couple months worth of, a couple months worth of online classes, if I remember what she was saying. Because I know
Takes time.
She would hire men, and
So
it would
it
take,
takes a certain
they
kind
would
of
just come in and
personality
just
to
do
do
class
something
after
like that,
class
because when you're
online.
under duress,
They may
and
just,
it's
they
an
may figure out
emergency
it's not their
situation.
thing.
No, I won't take up much more time, but if you know, if you find out, if you let me
What?
know. And you know,
Oh,
sometimes
her-
you just have to take a chance. I've owned several businesses, and there have been people come in, and I thought, you could never do this, but with some dedication on my part and their part both, you're going, wow, you know, it's surprising, so I just, you know, throwing that out there.
All right, are we ready to move on to the
Meeting schedule.
meeting schedule?
Yeah, so one thing, I just throwing this out based on kind of what Jeff was talking about and just kind of thinking about our timing and the 911 issue specifically. Since, you know, there's 5 Mondays in January anyway, and so we kind of have our February meeting's kind of a week later than kind of the way it would normally fall. I'm not going to be here because I'm on that national trip anyway. So I'm wondering if folks would be willing to maybe make it the February meeting on the 5th, which moves up our work a week earlier. And that might be helpful to the 911 portion. I'll be able to be here. You don't have to, I'm just throwing that out as an idea. I know Steve mentioned he might have a work obligation.
I was gonna be here on the 12th.
Okay, well, then maybe just keep it the way it is, but I just thought I'd throw that out there as an idea. But otherwise, the 12th will be fine. So, I'm just trying to think, how can we gain another week in all this, so, okay.
I do want to point out, I'm not going to be here at 6 a.m. They're all 6 a.m.
Oh, Baron will be here at 6 a.m.?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just looked it up on the internet. It's six weeks, and the top salary is 63,000. That's what they advertise. So it takes 6 weeks for certification with the
Okay.
school, you know. And
There you
it's
go.
the top money.
Is that
they-
for-
is 60
Is that for
63,000.
dispatch
That's
or?
for dispatching.
But what about dispatch supervisor?
I don't know about
I
supervisor.
think it's different.
But I just looked up certification.
Coordinator's different.
That's what he
Yeah.
experienced.
So do we.
Yeah, so PM, are you okay with PM?
I'm okay with PM.
I'm okay with being.
And then on budget hearing dates, you know, we've got the very end of July. I know that some of the numbers from the state barely come in at that time. I'm wondering if we should maybe make the initial, the workshops rather than the hearings, maybe put that more mid-August. I don't know if that's
Well,
something
we
of
have a
value
problem.
to us.
The only thing is we have a problem. I mean, we were really kind of down to the wire. We were wanting to make it a little earlier so we would have enough time
Yeah, I know, and the trouble is if we're missing the big parts, which, income tax projections and some of those things, we also were shooting in the dark a bit by starting a little early. So I guess there's some pro and con to that, but I'm just bringing that up if that's a concern. If not, they are just workshops, so it's kind of a beginning point.
Right, it gives us a
It just
starting
requires
point.
more follow-up, if that's okay.
What's your,
When's the fair?
It is the
July the,
July the
Fifth, well, the 8th is a Monday, I think, so it'll probably be.
July the 8th, July the 6th through the next week.
I'm nowhere near that.
Yeah.
what's your opinion, Sheila?
7th, 8th, 9th isn't gonna matter a week later, as far as it will give us a couple more weeks to maybe get some stuff in. And
Oh, I never thought of that too. They were being pushed to the limit on trying to get the budget request numbers in and prepared by that time, by the time in '23. Maybe it would also give them another week or two to finish that part, so we've got our books in advance. Because I would love to have the budget book at least a week prior. And now, if you do the math from July 31st, it's just a very tight time.
Sheila and I had talked about it, and we had talked about it would be good earlier, but if that, I don't want to do anything that causes you.
What's our deadline for department heads? Is it June 1st?
yes, so
Okay.
the push is gonna be making the departments get their stuff turned in. That's the drag out.
That's
It
the
doesn't
issue.
come out. So with the help of the council saying, get them turned in so we can get stuff entered and get them to you so you guys have 2 or 3 weeks to look at everything, so if we tell them that we want everything by July 1st, it needs to be here by July 1st or they don't get a budget.
So
are
it's
we-
July 1st, not June 1st?
The June 1st is the state, and I think as far as when numbers first start coming in, we can set the date when they get stuff turned in. It's making sure we get it entered, and can get it to you guys in enough time to review for 2 or 3 weeks before you have to start having your daily meetings. So,
In your opinion, would it be better if we had the hearings early or later?
I would say let's move it to the 7th, 8th, 9th. That way we're gonna be crossing into payroll in one of those. There is the extra week in July, so that'll give us the extra week to try and have everything ready as far as finishing out with everybody.
And your birthday is on the 9th.
Oh, wow.
So we
Happy
can-
birthday, Polly, by the way.
Since we're good at lining up birthdays with meetings.
So have it the 7th, 8th, and 9th? Is that,
we're just having an open discussion. Is
Right.
there any potential conflict with that, or?
I have to advertise this, just because, and again, we have to have it before the next meeting,
so we need to decide. I'm
Or
fine
we
with
can
this.
decide at a later date on the budget hearings if you want to take that part off of this resolution.
I'm fine with the 7th, 8th, and 9th. We had just discussed earlier, just.
Either
thought
works
that
for
was-
me, too.
Yeah, doesn't matter to me.
Both weeks work.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna boil down to the technical parts to this, the timing for you to compile the numbers, our ability to get things from the state. What's the ideal choice there?
So if the 7th, 8th, and 9th will work better for you, that's fine with me.
It is a payroll week, which means I won't, well, it would
I
start
need to-
turning on Friday.
Yeah, but I am consumed on Mondays. I can't do it on payroll Monday, especially with new
But
LAO
this is a
system.
Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yeah,
7th,
we would
8th, and
want it
9th
on a
is a Wednesday, Thursday,
Yeah,
and
that's what
Friday.
we always do.
And I think that, we have our liaison we're gonna talk
Okay,
about
that's
here, and
fine.
I think that it's very imperative that whatever departments each of us
Must have looked
have,
at the wrong week.
Yeah.
the ability for the department head to turn in those numbers.
And we need to make
We-
sure they
yes,
turn them in.
I think that
No
that would be helpful to work with them on that, so.
7th, 8th, and 9th.
Okay,
Is that okay?
sounds
Okay.
fine to me.
7. All right, so I'm going to make a motion that we approve the resolution establishing our county council meeting dates and deadlines as presented, with the exception of PM instead of AM. And for the budget hearings, we're going to have August 7th, 8th, and 9th instead of July 31st, August 1st, August 2nd.
Motion's been made by Anton, is there a second? Seconded by Steve. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay. All right, our liaison appointments, do we want to keep the same that we had this year, in
Yes.
2023? Okay.
Any objection?
Sounds
I'm
fine
going to
me.
make a motion that we carry over 23's assignments for liaisons to 24.
All right. Motion made by Anton. Is there a second?
I will.
Second by Andy. All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay.
2 events that are coming up. The AIC Legislative Conference is February 6th and 7th. If you want to go, be sure to tell Sheila right away, because the cutoff for hotel is the 10th. If you need to stay,
Where's that at?
it's at the Hyatt
In,
in Indianapolis. And then,
And Anton got the last room today, so we would. have
was it
to
the
be
last
looking-
room? Well, I can only fit so many in the room. Well, and I noticed the rate, Sheila, on that second, and that's going to be reorganized.
Yes.
There's going to be, so there will be additional rooms probably. So stay tuned.
And that's
That's coming up on February 6th and 7th. The good thing is it's in Indy, so worst case, really, the big day is, well, I guess it is kind of split, but one day or the other is valuable either way. So just keep that in mind. The morning session on Wednesday is going to have most of the legislative-related, heavy stuff, and that would be good. The other thing is there's a council association district meeting for our area at Greencastle on the 30th of January. So it doesn't require any lodging. It's a dinner meeting. It also is going to be very legislative heavy.
January?
Yep, and I think Steve went last year, and I went. So that's another opportunity to be engaged. And I just want to make sure I pass those along to you.
Okay, we also need to do the alcohol board appointment. Our current appointee has had some severe health issues and is not going to be able to do that. So you had
I got a nomination for Dave Scully.
Dave Scully.
I can't think of anybody better than that.
Yeah, he's a good choice. Are you making that a motion?
Yes, I did.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Burl, seconded by Anton. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. Great.
And then I had a quick question on the commissioners' holiday schedule. There was the added day of solar eclipse, which makes 15 days, April the 8th. It'll probably be overcast and raining. I hope it isn't, but that could happen. At any rate, we pay a holiday pay benefit to our 24/7 public safety positions that don't get holidays. And so I wanted to make sure that there's some plan as to whether we're going to be paying a 15th day as a benefit to those individuals that wouldn't otherwise get it off, or if the intent is just simply not accounting for that in terms of that benefit. So I don't know if that's anything we need to do, but I just want to make sure that if there is something money-wise that's going to come out from that, we'll need to have to do an additional appropriation for a few of the budgets to cover the cost of an additional 8 hours for the holiday. So,
I feel like I'd like to hear the whole thing, maybe at another, if we can put it in a schedule or something sometime.
Sure.
Yeah.
so for a later meeting, and maybe we can come up with a cost estimate, because if there is to be an additional appropriation, we need to know what we're looking at dollar-wise, so, okay.
Okay. Any other council?
Back here in
Yes.
the prayers, I've got to mention, we need to keep Peggy
Yes.
Robinson and Nick in our prayers.
Yes, absolutely, and that is why Nick is not here, because she will have surgery, and
Oh,
he's
wow.
wanting to kind of stay away from.
I think she had surgery tomorrow.
Okay.
I believe it was either last week or 11th. Okay, the 11th then, but we need to keep her in prayers.
Yes.
Well, then, Madam President, I suggest we all just have Sam lead us in prayer right now.
Sounds good.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight to lift up Peggy Robinson and Nick. Peggy's getting ready to have surgery. It's pretty serious. Peggy's strong, she's strong-willed, she loves the Lord. She knows the outcome one way or another. God's taking care of her. But nevertheless, we just want to pray for your healing hands to be upon her and upon Nick and the whole entire family, Lord. They're good people, good hearts. We just pray that your will be done. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you, Sam. If there's nothing further, I have nothing else.
Motion to adjourn.
Congratulations, Madam President.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. VP.
That's one thing, as far as a township trustee, I would learn.